I would love to introduce our moderator, who will, of course, introduce these wonderful startups and to hype him up a little bit. Andre Charoo is one of the first 25 employees at both Uber and Hired, launching both companies in Canada and helping achieve 10 times growth at Uber and 50 times growth at Hired. Today, he runs a microfund called Maple, obviously wonderfully named, which is focused on investing Canadian founders anywhere in the world. Andre also serves as co-chair for the C100 and is on the C100 board of directors. Andre, welcome officially. I mean, again, we had you on earlier this morning for kickoff, but welcome for Meet the Fellows.
Awesome. You're so kind, and you can hear me well and everything's good?
Perfectly.
Awesome. Well,
the stage is yours.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. Let's get to these awesome founders and highlight their stories. We got KJ Singh, and it's worth me noting that Maple VC is a proud early investor in ResQ, and so I look forward to chatting here with KJ, who's CEO and founder of ResQ, as Lauren mentioned, a SaaS-enabled marketplace transforming restaurant operations, and we have Sebastian Jacob, who's CEO and co-founder of Faber Connect, a B2B marketplace connecting construction companies with local construction workers. Welcome, both of you. It's awesome to have this conversation. Just, beyond just your companies, it'd be worth kind of sharing a little bit about both of your backgrounds so everyone knows a little bit more about you guys up until this moment in time and starting your companies. KJ, why do you start off?
Thank you, Andre. Pleasure to be here. Very excited to be part of the C100 and super excited to be sharing our story. Just a little bit about myself. I'm the founder and CEO of ResQ. As Andre mentioned, we're a SaaS-enabled marketplace that is transforming restaurant operations. Prior to ResQ, I was the founding team member of a venture capital fund, spent 8 years building IGAN Partners here in Toronto into a fund that invested all along North America and invested hundreds of millions of dollars in fast-growing companies, raised over $250 million across 3 funds. And somewhere along the journey became a multi-unit restaurant owner, which essentially helped me discover this pain point around restaurants and started ResQ. Been an active angel investor as well as an advisor to tech companies. So been around both the venture side and now building and operating a company. So super excited to be here. Thank you.
I love it. I love it that you actually you felt the pain of your customers. It's part of the reason why I invested in you as well, by the way. And then you decided to go out and solve it for them. Seb, give us a bit of your journey up into the point of founding Faber.
Right. Thanks, Andre. My name's Sebastian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Faber Connect. Prior to Faber Connect, myself and my other co-founders spent a lot of time in construction, even as early as summers during high schools, working construction jobs, trying to find work, and each kind of evolved in the construction industry later on. And myself ended up on the real estate side a little more. So got to experience the construction industry from a lot of different vantage points and got to kind of see the issues with hiring and finding work firsthand, both as a worker and as a construction company later on. And got the unique opportunity to join the early DoorDash team and launch Vancouver and later on Toronto with myself and my other co-founder, John Reed. And really just took all the learnings from that time at DoorDash, building the marketplace in Canada during that, and really just applied it to our experience back in construction in the early days to create what Faber is now, the two-sided marketplace.
That's awesome. Wow, congrats on your journey and your prior successes. I actually didn't know that part of the story, Seb. Well, let's stick with you in terms of now just digging deeper and giving everyone a quick sort of snapshot of what does Faber do and how does it do it and kind of why it's special, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Faber, so we're more or less a service marketplace, two-sided, connecting construction companies to the local workforce around them. So most of our clients are building larger commercial projects or larger scale multi-residential projects and are in need of workers on demand. So they use our app to request workers for anywhere from a week to 6 months. And our app uses a variety of different data points in our matching algorithm to then surface the best quality candidates that can start as soon as next morning. And being a service marketplace, we obviously go beyond that connection and then go on to manage all the payroll, compliance, insurance, all that super fun back office stuff in the back end for that client.
Got it. And then lastly, where are you at in terms of the size of the company and the traction, and maybe if you can share, the stage that you're at the moment?
Yeah, we're founded in Vancouver and just started to get into the US right now. So we just launched our third market this year. And coming right into our kind of Series A phase, ready to take on a more national expansion across the US, starting with the southern states.
Awesome, man. Congrats. Exciting. KJ, you give everyone the story on how ResQ does what it does for the restaurant space.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I was to just sort of put it in layman terms, when we go to restaurants, McDonald's is actually a great example of this. If you remember the last time you tried to get a ice cream at McDonald's with McFlurry, for example, you probably experienced that the ice cream machine wasn't working and they couldn't.
So true. It's so true.
It happens a lot. And even if you go to sit-down restaurants, you sometimes don't find certain certain menu items on the menu. And more likely than less, the reason is because that equipment that actually cooks that meal or makes that ice cream is not working. So repair and maintenance at a restaurant is a very mission-critical part of the business. It leads to lost sales. It leads to bad customer experience. Many times it leads to lost inventory when your walk-in freezer stops working. And what ResQ does is essentially allows you to manage your entire repair and maintenance structure through a managed marketplace in the background. From a restaurant's perspective, this is not an expertise they have in-house because restaurants want to focus on delivering guest experience, cooking great meals, driving top-of-the-line revenue, essentially, and great experiences. And one of the key areas that gets impacted is repair and maintenance and broader operations because it's such a time-consuming part to find contractors, manage them, make sure you're getting the best pricing, make sure the job is being completed. And we've essentially built a SaaS-enabled marketplace that connects restaurants to local contractors, allowing them to manage the entire experience end-to-end.
Got it. Let's stick with you also as well. Can you share a little bit about the scale and the sort of stage of the company and the impact you're making at the moment? Yeah.
Absolutely. So of course, as everyone knows, restaurant industry is one of the most impacted industries over the last 12 months on the back of COVID. We officially launched our product into the market back in 2019. And less than 6 months formally into the market, we obviously saw the entire industry shutting down on us. We repositioned our product at the time. We changed our sort of target market, going towards bigger, larger multi-unit groups, QSR groups. Essentially started building a new layer of value and started launching new markets. We were only in Toronto back in March 2020. And since then, we've seen enormous growth. We've grown over 600% in the last 12 months. We've tripled the size of our team. We've closed some of the largest restaurant groups, both in Canada and the US. We've launched over 7 new markets, including Canada and the US. So there's definitely been some headwinds in terms of where the restaurant industry is going. But with everything, the industry is evolving so fast, and the need of technology and innovation has become the prime focus for any restaurant group that's looking to grow and scale, and we're right at the forefront of this.
I love that, and congrats on getting through what clearly, for particularly your business, it was a tough time for everyone. But gosh, it's heroic, basically, what as a proud investor, what you've accomplished through it. Seb, staying on timing, what has sort of this moment in time, of course, with COVID, any tailwinds, headwinds, how has it been for Faber?
Yeah, it's been a mixed bag. I think there's a few decent takeaways from it. I think one of which it realized how maybe overexposed we were to a couple individual markets, and probably pushed our timeline up a little further to get into some markets like Houston and Dallas, for example, that were opening up at a much faster rate than, say, Vancouver did.
Right.
So, that was something that we probably would have kicked the can on a little longer, but because of COVID and wanting to get into those open markets, pushing that forward. But zooming out a little bit, what it really did that, maybe KJ's seen some of this as well, but it's also sped up the adoption of the gig economy when it comes to marketplaces tenfold. Which has been awesome. I think it's sped up. Some estimates by 2027, about 60% of the workforce is going to be independent, which is awesome news, because not just for the workers, but it's going to speed up regulators now to try and push on a lot of the infrastructure that they're way behind on when it comes to building in the benefits and some of the compliance legality changes that are required to take on that huge boost in this gig economy. So that's probably been the best thing we've noticed on our end.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I was going to ask kind of about trends and unique possibilities and opportunities within this moment in time in this market that you're taking advantage of. But you answered it there. Any others, KJ, on your end that you're seeing coming out of COVID, just to finish that thought around possible trends, opportunities that are now open to you because of COVID that pre-COVID wasn't available to you, maybe?
Absolutely. I'd say generally technology adoption at restaurants have been generally low, even if I go back a few years when we were starting ResQ, and most of the innovation was happening what we call at the front of the house. If you think through the DoorDashes of the world, the Uber Eats, the Rituals of the world, which is essentially driving revenue. While operationally, if you look at what we call the back of the house, on sort of how you manage your kitchens and repair and maintenance and other operations, that's been totally overlooked. And if you were to really compare the front of the house and the back of the house, everyone knows this restaurant on average is a 5 to 7% profit margin business. So if the if the front of the house is over $1 trillion market revenue-wise in North America, 95% of that is cost. So the back of the house has been largely overlooked, and what we're seeing in the last 12 months is a faster adoption of technology. I think everyone's realizing that technology is not just a nice to have, it is an absolute need in terms of accelerating their growth and being able to really manage cost and manage operations. And we've seen that with not just not just largest groups, but smaller groups as well. And that is some sort of strong tailwinds that we're seeing in terms of industry shift. From our perspective, we had a similar scenario as well. Back in March 2020, we were just in Toronto, literally the GTA, and we were 100% concentrated on whatever was happening here in Toronto. But one of the key muscles that we were building and had to build much faster is how we launch new markets, how we build and scale both of the demand and the supply side. So from there, in a matter of, I believe, 90 days after COVID hit us, we launched BC. A few months later, we launched Alberta. A few months later, we launched Saskatchewan and sort of other Canadian markets. And then early this year, we launched 4 different states in the US. So it's helped us accelerate faster. It has helped us build muscles that we didn't have. And a lot of the credit, in fact, all the credit goes to the team. The way the entire team has navigated through what I call the toughest era that the industry has faced has absolutely been amazing to watch. So
that's awesome. Switching gears a little bit on just from an educational standpoint, I wanted to ask a question around these various types of marketplaces that are popping up these days. I was fortunate to do another panel discussion with some experts in the space from Sarah Tavel at Benchmark, Angela Tran at Version 1, Pete Flint at NFX. And you mentioned KJ ResQ in the introduction. There's a SaaS market, enabled marketplace. Seb with Faber, you're a service marketplace. There's managed marketplaces. I've heard of API marketplaces. Give us a bit of an education really quickly. Why is it KJ, let's maybe start with you. Why and how is it a SaaS enabled marketplace? Just kind of break that down and maybe even give some thoughts around how you're innovating around what just like a core marketplace does, which just connects supply and demand. But there's so many other things that people are beginning to layer in. And I happen to know you're doing some interesting things at
absolutely.
ResQ, if you can share.
Absolutely. So I'll go back maybe just pre-COVID. We actually started off as a pure marketplace, which is, local independent restaurants need something done for repair and maintenance. They need a plumber, for example. We had a plumber on the network. We would connect them, let them sort of negotiate directly, and all the transactions would go through us. Very simple marketplace, mobile first, simple sort of technology platform. what we realized was early last year and through sort of the start of COVID, we started focusing on QSR groups, multi-unit brands, bigger groups which had multi-unit restaurants. And if you look at some of these multi-unit restaurants, many, if not all of them, are structured as a business. They've got leadership teams, they've got finance groups, accounting groups, regional teams, operations groups. And the requirement for someone like that to manage any type of operations, in particular repair and maintenance, is much more dense. So you don't need just a mobile first platform now. You need dashboarding, you need workflow management, you need essentially SaaS capabilities to really be able to make sense of all the data and everything that's happening in the background to control repair and maintenance and make sense of it. So what we started doing early last year is started building that SaaS solution. So essentially what we have is a SaaS platform on the demand side, which is the restaurants, where everything gets centralized in one place, top down, from all the way from leadership down to the local regional restaurants. And then in the background, it's powered by a marketplace where we're able to leverage our buying power over the supply side to drive better pricing, better turnaround time, better quality. And we're actually now building SaaS solutions even for the supply side of the market, because they require tools to manage their businesses and do payments and accounting work and things along those lines. One of the things that we are starting to build out now is embedded finance functionality. So we're realizing that on the supply side, the nature of this market has been net payment, 30-day payments, and not a lot of lending programs in place, and not a lot of financial or banking infrastructure that they have, which us being fortunate as tech entrepreneurs, we have access to because of the nature of the venture capital market and the amount of funding we have. Unfortunately, this sort of skilled labor economy does not have access to all these values and all these products. So we're starting to build that by providing them faster payments and providing them lending programs and essentially building the depth on the supply side as well. And one of the key things I should mention is—
Seb, bring us home. Oh, yes. Sorry. Finish.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things I should mention as a last point is we're essentially connecting labor between demand and supply, but we're doing the area we're starting to tap into is now starting to build a marketplace around parts and equipment, because that's kind of the next layers of the marketplace that we want to go after. We believe we can become that end-to-end solution in the background through a SaaS platform powered by a marketplace of different types of services.
Got it. I know time check, but Seb, bring us home regarding service marketplaces. And you also alluded to the back office functions that you were also helping on the construction side as well. So I wonder how you view sort of innovating on just the basic marketplace of supply and demand.
Yeah, I think a lot very similar to KJ. I think every marketplace kind of starts very standard, just connecting the two parties and kind of leaving it at that. And we had brick and mortar competitors in the market prior to us, staffing firms, right, who make the connection, and that's essentially it. And what we want to do with our marketplace, being a service marketplace, is over time continue to add on service layers and service products that go to touch on every single next step in that transaction process between just the initial connection of demand and supply. So, some super quick examples, right after we connect the demand and supply of the worker and construction company, our marketplace doesn't stop there. It goes on to then, handle all the hour logging of that experience and work in cost coding during that hour logging process. And then further from that goes into the, payroll process of just dealing with all the compliance, workers' comp, general liability, all that stuff in the back end, so that the customer just has this super simple, essentially, one-stop shop for supply management on the platform, where they can kind of come in and instead of doing bits and pieces on the platform and then having to go on their back office and deal with the rest, ideally over time that entire process is brought onto the marketplace and handled on the platform.
It's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Lauren, you tell me. I could keep going for days with these two. I could go, and uncover more about their businesses. I love marketplace businesses, so this is fun. Thank you, KJ. Thank you, Seb. This has been awesome chatting. I know it's been short, but fun. So thank you.